Got it. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our celebration of West Trestlers. We are so happy that you are here and joining us. I'm Trisha, and I'm co-hosted by Annie and Katherine, my fierce co-editors of West Trestle Review. We have an excellent lineup of readers. We are not going to be reading the bios out loud, but Annie will be posting them in the chat as I'm introducing the next reader. So I will introduce a reader, and then when that reader finishes, I will introduce the next reader, and Annie will post the next bio in the chat. And just as an aside, if you haven't seen our new issue, it is out, the November-December 2023 issue. So westtrestlreview.com. And we are also on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube as West Trestle and West Trestle Review. And so follow us and like us and share us and all that good stuff. And let's go ahead and get started with our first reader, Xiaoly Li, whose poem was in our September issue.
Hi, first I want to thank Western Trestle Review for host this poetry reading. And next, I want to thank you everyone come together in this special time so we can read poetry. The name of my poem is called Moonlight Walk. Moonlight Walk, the moon, a perfect half circle, no other stars visible except Jupiter in the southern sky, and the starlight from the curtained houses with shadows moving across a blue shaded room. What a story, happy, boring, frozen, is going on when the moon is listening. So do you, the lonely walker, listen without a mask among the silhouette of trees, the continuous drumming of cicadas, the mooing of a bell frog, fill the quiet, warm twilight. Other, you think, yen, there's one body, long ignored, you experience now, whose steps, whose sense of moon touch, whose flow, whose satisfaction of being occupied, noticed, loved. On the open road, the walker continues with the moon and the latest and the last lover. Thank you.
Thank you, Xiaoly. That was beautiful. I love that ending. Let's see. Our next reader is Natalie Padilla Young, whose poem was in our September issue.
Hi, yes, thanks everyone for being here. Thanks West Trestle for joining us and publishing a beautiful magazine. I'm going to read my poem from the issue, and then I'm going to read 2 short poems from my book that was published this year. So this one, first one's called So Close to the Ground. Such titles: husband is ugly, wife is worse. This marriage can drive now. One of my oldest friends' oldest just finished high school. Husband says, everyone's kids are graduating, have graduated, meaning we are old enough. We are not young. The moon at its youngest is a sliver hanging over the mountains. I'd like to clip it off, place the illuminated thumbnail in my purse. See grandma's perfect nails unsnapping an uncluttered bag. Since she left, I'm inclined to buy handbags, spend too much, knowing she'd approve. There's no more room in mine, not even for the moon. I try to pair, but I'm too worried but I'm too married to being prepared. Band-Aids, lozenge, bobby pins, Benadryl in 3 forms for him, husband, man of more allergies, more than enough to swell the throat shut. A surprise defense against what should be known by now. This marriage is 2 dogs down plus 2 dogs at home. One who also has allergies. So close to the ground, he carries it all until it gets washed down the drain. The new dog, such a pretty thing. Grandma would have loved to look at him. This marriage was 2 years a teen when she could be lovely, mean. So can the little dog, all his clean or dirty fringe. 1 minute a kiss, the next, teeth bared, a stored grudge. So can I. You think you know a dog, and then you see him wet. So now I'm just going to read from this book that came out this year. All of this was Once Underwater from Quarter Press. All you need to know is that it's based in Utah with actual scenery and history of Utah, but it's mixed with speculative fiction. So there is a woman who is just a human woman, and then a monster that's lived in the Great Salt Lake for centuries, and an alien, an extraterrestrial. So I'm going to read one poem from the monster and one poem from the alien. And I'm going to show you it's illustrated by a German illustrator named Maximilian Spies. And the poems I'm reading don't have illustrations, but I'm going to show you an illustration that kind of goes along with the characters so that you can see how beautiful they are. So here's the alien. I don't know if you can see it, and then the woman. So let's go to the alien really quick. Discussing customs. Alien pokes the dog in the eye. The dog flinches. Alien is sorry, so sorry. The dog stares. Sorry, you could blind me. The dog isn't even squinting or actually saying a word. A lesson. This planet requires more than apologies. So now I'm just going to show you the illustration. It's kind of monstery. You can see the woman's legs wading into the Great Salt Lake. And then we just have the monster's tail, which is all we ever see of him in the illustrations. So, and then this poem is the monster poem, and it's dedicated to Derek Haney in memoriam. The monster looks into the dark heavens and considers how things would be different if he believed in a higher power. Pieces of the past in the blue-black sky, stars long burnt out, their light just now reaching Earth's eyes. He looks up to catch sight of something that still exists and existed through his timeline of centuries. The air is full with changing seasons, poking his periphery, a satellite, a plane, a slab of the moon. Night will not leave him alone. He searches for a specific single star, the sign who cannot show itself tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. And your book is called All of This Was Once Underwater from Quarter Press. Thank you for showing those beautiful illustrations. So cool. And our next reader is Rachel Ramirez. And Rachel, you're in the November issue, right?
I am, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So this is part of a short story called The Pigeon. Dewa walks alone down the long dirt road to school. The road is still littered with debris, the land around it still healing. Farmers, like medics in wide-brimmed rattan hats, attend to wounded banana crops, casualties of the last typhoon. Dewa watches her father cycle away, the farmers blurred in the background. He zigzags past fallen trees and severed palm fronds until the storm-scarred land seems to slowly swallow him whole. Her father used to walk her to school before he got a job as bus driver. His new job is a blessing, he would say, but the walk feels longer without him. This is made worse by the bakya she wears, wooden clogs with sharp straps that cut into the roofs of her feet. She walks until the barrio has disappeared behind her. Then she takes her clogs off and shoves them in her bag. She's standing barefoot on the soothing earth, wiggling the dirt between her toes when she sees her teacher walking towards her. Miss Soledad has a beauty mark like a blackened pinhead just above one corner of her mouth. Her skin looks bleached, almost the same shade of white as her dress, and on her petite feet she wears black scuff-free flats. An ugly scowl masks her pretty face. "Are you a beggar?" "No, miss," Diwa wants to say, but the words are wedged in her throat. "You look like one." Miss Soledad's long, pale finger points to Diwa's bare feet. Then, without another word, she marches off down the road towards the school. Diwa puts her clogs back on. She follows behind her teacher, but at a distance, the clogs tearing into her skin. Mabini Central looks more like a barn than a school. It has a new roof made of shiny sheets of galvanized steel. The old roof had been damaged by the last typhoon, despite the surrounding hills that shield the school from the worst of storms. Diwa can see the hills through the classroom door, left open to let out the heat. She's sitting at her wooden desk, struggling to sing Bahay Kubo. Most of her classmates are struggling too, unable to sing in tune. Marsing, the plump boy who sits beside her, has forgotten the words. He's looking up in the air with intensity as if searching for words in the rafters. Miss Soledad walks down the aisle between the two groups of desks. She hits her ruler against her palm to push along the straggling rhythm. Diwa avoids her gaze, looks down at her blue shirt and navy skirt. The daily washing of her uniform has dulled out its color. "I look like a beggar." She fights back the tears forming in her eyes. She's relieved when the song finally ends and lunchtime comes. Diwa sits next to Marsing beneath the dense shade of a malawi tree. The massive tree has endured the last storm unscathed. It shelters them from the blazing midday sun with its vast canopy of glossy pointed foliage. Diwa takes out the lunch her father prepared for her. It's tightly wrapped in banana leaves like a present. She interrupts the leaves and looks inside. No boiled egg, no sweetened coconut, nothing but plain rice. Pain erupts in tears from her eyes. She doesn't care that Marsing is watching. "I have two anyway," Marsing tells her. He is holding out an oily egg roll in the palm of his pudgy hand. She takes the egg roll from him and smiles. She thinks of how her classmates often tease him, calling him the greedy one. He's not greedy, and I'm not a beggar. "Salamat, Marsing." "You are welcome," he responds in a funny accented English that sends them both into fits of giggles. When Diwa gets home from school, she props open the awning windows of the house with bamboo rods to let in the sunlight and air. She lives in a one-room nipa hut with her father, a stilted structure with ladder-like steps that lead to a small front porch. Its stilts form the corners of the house, holding up its thin bamboo walls. Its roof, steeply pitched to let the hot air rise into it, is made of thatched dried napa leaves. Her father rethatched the roof after the typhoon blew most of it away. Diwa changes out of her school uniform into one of her only two dresses. Then she sits on the porch to wait for her father. "Ining," he calls out to her. He gets down from his rusted bicycle, leaves it leaning against the porch. Sweat is dripping down his sun-drenched face. His shirt is wet with it beneath his arms and on his chest. Diwa hugs him, feeling his wet warmth, inhaling his fumy stink. He has the odor earned from a day spent driving a bus. She misses her father as the fisherman and the sea smell of his embrace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you haven't read Rachel's whole story in West Trestle, I recommend that you read it. It's beautiful. And I'm just keeping my video off because my video has started glitching, so I apologize. But let's see, our next reader is Clara McLean, and Clara's poem is in our May issue. Welcome, Clara.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here. It's great to see all your faces and hear your beautiful work. And thank you, West Trestle, for hosting this and for just making such an awesome publication. So this is called Ode to Oysters, and it's part of a project of celebrating uncelebrated things. Ode to Oysters. Soft sea tongues, what telling? What chorus of clacks from the edges of continents, slate cymbals percussing the flux? Oh, oysters, oh, empaths, silt filters, you take it all in. Humble harbor redeemers, bay saviors, sustainers, underestimated ones. Praise for much maligned textures, liver-like, lava-like sluice of interiors. It's like sliding down into the mouth of a crater, back through time to the planet's origins. That mineral gouged out softness, that colorful, colorless earth body, all weathered wonder, split wide in violent reverence. At 19, I first kissed the mouth of adulthood, saw you shucked from a bucket beside the host's chair in France, watched how he prized and carefully passed you, cradled in your shell as one might a slick newborn still brined with birth. I gingerly slit your skin with my teeth, savored dirt, surge, the body, tender guesswork of guts, sweet and salt. I thought, I am going to be happy. Oh, heartbeats, oh, oysters, oh, high-piled shell middens, ancestors, food of crabs, starfish, seabirds that arc high to crack you on rocks. Oh, calcium carbonate, soil restorers, purgers of nitrates. Oh, generous jewelers of nacre. Ululations, oh, pungent sea truffles, sludge sublimity, hard armored sucklings. Oh, grit house, oh, grief solve, oh, garrulous clusters. Oh, perfect aloneness, oh, milky mantra, mire, metaphor, poem. Give me fog-shrouded pearls. Give me lone shiplight. Give me here, here, this moment, your continuous, effortless calling. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. I just love all of the alliteration, and it's such great language, that poem. Our next reader is Melissa McKinstry, and Melissa's poem was in our September issue. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. Hello, all. And thank you, Wes Trestle, for hosting so we can hear each other's words. So nice to be here together. The first poem I'm going to read is from Beloit Poetry Journal, and it's one of a series I've written about my son, Charlie, and this is called Showering My Son. Now over 100 pounds, your soft body, like the lead drape a technician places before an X-ray, like Titian's Venus of our Urbino, white and pink, sans all that hair, sans the sentience in the eyes. Every day for almost 24 years, my arms under your shoulder blades and knees, I scoop you out of bed, pivot you to the blue mesh chaise on wheels, your 3 stomata, a constellation from throat to belly to bladder. Oh, the way plastic meets the flesh, our little mystery, our science experiment, our boy. Let us wheel to the shower now. I'll sluice warm water over your chest, little tuft of hair. I'll lift each arm and rinse your musky man odor. I'll soap your groin, your legs, and your rocker bottom feet with those toes crossed for good luck. I'll shampoo your hair, a sort of translucence. I'll shave your chin, press a warm cloth gently to each eye, the whorl of each ear, the nape of your neck under the trach tie. And then the swaddle of towels, the wheeling back to bed, and will become after the bath by Degas, the hairbrush and the awkward limbs. I'll lotion your knobby knees, thin shins, each little finger that has never held anything. I'll fluff your pillow, cover you with your soft old blanket, read you a poem. I'll be Frank O'Hara, made for the lunchtime ritual of the city, made for kangaroos, aspirins, beachheads, and beers. These things are with us every day, he says, made for the daily touch, for the reminder, you really are beautiful, he says. And the poem that appeared in the September issue of West Trestle is called Doing the Math. Here we are, paralyzed by despair, stunned by the sum of headlines, considering what natural habitat, wine, mystery, or music might imprison our fear or dolor in an empty set. Then we might graph the amplitude of the good mind, look again for elephant seals near Cambria, the haystack rock rising from Morro Bay, or capes of monarchs draped at Pismo Beach, the little eucalyptus grove layered in velvet until the sun heats up like higher order exponents, and orange, orange, orange wings slip like an abacus from staid humility to full fan and float. Palominos appear, ghost the trail to the long open beach, shimmer the surface of a tea poured from a faithful thermos. Suddenly, the cup is wings and hooves, clouds and leaves, and we whisper Esperanza as trees take flight.
Thank you, Melissa. Those are both so beautiful. Our next reader is Jessica Cuello, and Jessica's poem, Flash Fiction, was in our November issue. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you, Patricia. It's really good to be here and listen to all of you here read your beautiful work. Melissa, that was a beautiful poem. So the thing I published in West Trestle is a flash piece, and this is a brand new territory for me. So I appreciate that you gave it a home. The title is E.T. from the 80s movie about the extraterrestrial. E.T. Our town had one theater, and yes, it was on Main Street. Across the street was Baruti's, where my brother bought Superman comics. The whole back shelf was porn, and the store had a terrifying presence of men. It smelled of cigar and undershirts. The concrete parking lot beside the store was reddish, so was the windowless wall that edged it. My cousin Colette was thrown against that wall before she died. It was a Sunday afternoon, a day for a matinee. She ran from her boyfriend's car when he stopped at the traffic light. The car was left in the middle of the street, doors open. He caught up with her at the lot. People milled about and watched, but they didn't intervene. Maybe because he had a gun. I don't know. I wasn't there. When I return to that town, I drive up that street. I crane my neck toward the lot, but don't stop. For a while, there were votives and dead flowers wrapped in plastic. Someone had written, "We love you, Colette." 30 years before she died, my older cousin took all of us to see E.T. Colette was so small. Her head was below the seat. Her feet dangled in those jelly sandals that all the girls had. When E.T. rose into the sky, her face shone with tears. When the lights came on, she wiped them away. And though E.T. was one of the only movies I saw in a theater as a child, the scene where he flees is all I remember. So I'm also going to read, Patricia asked me to contribute to Cross Ties, which is about overlooked women writers. And I fell in love with this poet called Claire Millican this fall. And I'm a voracious reader. I mean, I read a lot. There's not a lot of I know a lot of poets, and I had never heard of this poet. and I couldn't believe it. The book is so beautiful. So it's called Elegiaca Americana, and the poet is Claire Millican. So I thought I would read one of her poems. And it tied into the flash piece, so that's one reason I picked it, but the entire book is gorgeous. After school special. The year my cousin was killed, I was 4 years old and could read well enough to remember my mother never wept like that afternoon, kneeling on the carpet while the television after school special played and none turned it off. The gun that caught cousin's heart was her father's. The hand's his, also on the trigger. Nothing to fear, because it's already over. In the fields, the red hour passes. After school, red sky sinks into pine woods. Walk home now. At 4 years old, I read more words than most kids my age, including the words shotgun and cousin. She was a thin-built child, touching everything quickly, moving away as if she were born to have no voice. Or maybe that's the slant of memory after image, a field set between houses without shelter, pine woods waiting clean and motherly where she found him not expecting her. Maybe it was that simple. After school, a 12-year-old child seeks her father in pine woods at field's edge, but he's with his mistress holding his gun and he sees an intruder. I watched the after-school special all the way through, ate cheese wrapped in plastic for supper, sucking the milky orange substance through plastic wrapper. She was 8 years older, thin wrists like her mother, like my mother. I watched television a lot after that, hours and hours of the stuff, the endless light. And I'm going to read for 20 seconds, just one tiny poem by the Palestinian poet Maya Abu al-Hayat. This is translated by Fadi Judah. Whistling. Do you see this hole in my neck? Not sure if it was a bullet or a word that did it. But I'm certain 2 lips passed over it and left a whistling behind, and also a rustle whenever I turn to the future or the past. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much, Jessica. Those are all so powerful. And if you haven't seen them, all of our contributors are invited to write a cross tie about another lesser known writer or artist, and we try to share them in between issues. And so I so appreciate Jessica's cross tie. If you haven't read it, it's in the November issue. So thank you very much. Our next reader is Dorsey Kraft, and Dorsey's poem appeared in our January issue.
Hi, thank you so much to you guys for coming into West Trestle, for having me. I'm going to read one poem to introduce myself called Short Bio, and then I'll read To the Greenland Shark, which appeared in West Trestle. Short Bio. Dorothy Kraft is 30 with 2 ancient lamps yellowing a painting of cows. She holds her breast inside a sports bra and watches a blue vein creep under her arm. She currently serves as both skin and peel for a baby constantly compared to fruit. She recently had her first acai bowl with banana and coconut. Her mouth says, "Fix me, fix me." Her fingers try not to pop the zit that mountains from the shadow of her hair against her cheek. She believes a random animal fact is a great end for a poem. Once a year, her mother sends her the same paragraph written by her grandfather in middle school. Last summer, she made mojitos and sat in a lawn chair under the sprinkler. She spoke to no one but her husband for 60 days and thus decided to have his baby. She stood under an oak dripping Spanish moss. She thought, I am inside of a brain. I'll just pet him. Just pet him. Sorry, my dog is making some noise. I'm going to read To the Greenland Shark now. Thank you so much to Wes Trestle for publishing this one. Another pandemic poem. To the Greenland Shark. You loom like a yawn over blubber plump pups, those nuggets with red, thick hearts snoozing in grottos. You stomach the brush of mammalian fur growing pink inside you 5 years, the slow digestion of things that make cold their god, that measure worship in years and float offerings through dark green hallways. What movements of ours set a tingle in your eggs? Do you feel our stillness now as we linger in living rooms, outlast a beast that bounces, merry as a bee between us, young as a pink soap bubble? What is death on your slow velvet journey? The Inuit believe you swim in the toilet water of a goddess, a phantom of piss drifting in icy waste. Down where skeletons tatter and fold, where ships dribble past like celestial drops. Can you remember a silence, emerald dense, or the glacier's silver lyric waving wide? I'd watch you glide by my window like a heron, if it meant I'd keep this body. I'd pray to the meat in your teeth if I could bite my lover's ear in 2300, see my baby's baby turn 70, swathed in the purling navy of your heaven. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dorsey. Our next reader is Naila Buckner, and Naila's poem was in our September issue. Welcome, Naila.
Hello, I am thoroughly nervous. I would first like to say thank you to the Trestle Review for being among my first few publications as a writer who was just starting to become published. I'm very grateful to be in company with all of you and with all of the rest of the contributors, and I hope you enjoy. So first I will read the poem that was featured in the Trestle Review, and then I'll read 2 excerpts from a very tentative collection that I'm working on called The Fox. So this first piece is called Sexy Baby Complex. Hairless and wearing symbols of fertility, I call Raven on the west side. Isn't it a shame I'm making all of this money? It started when I was 18. I just turned 21 underneath the Big Dipper. I want to be a stripper. This work is saddest when I am online and they call me sexy baby because to my mother, I am still a baby. But I gather up my best red lingerie. I become a stripper anyway, another black hole under the white stars. So I guess I'll transition to the next piece, which is called The Grandson. When I see the girl dad turn grandfather into the room, I am confronted by the bitterness that always follows the sweetness of birth. The blue blanket is the what grandpa sees first. Would he have been so full of joy to cry if there was a baby girl in my arms instead? In the best interest of the mother, maybe hospitals should only allow for newborns to be wrapped in blue, regardless of sex. This will give her the time to prepare to break the news, as well as guarantee that the fathers, grandfathers, and uncles won't disturb her and the baby until she is discharged. The last piece that I would like to read is also titled The Fox. Okay, and this is from the collection that I mentioned before. This is The Fox. My life is those red flashes I've seen when I stare at the sun. The same red flash I saw coming home from my 7th grade Christmas play. Over the weightlessness of the egg white of the headlights, a heavy-handed stroke of red. I heard the atmosphere snap as I drew in a breath so hastily it scraped my uvula. Out of the other passengers, I only remember my father. I could see his lungs filling halfway rapidly as his shoulders bounded up and down like the backside of a feline in full sprint. Though we lived hardly 20 feet beyond the forest preserve, we mostly saw strange people and deer. The silent and demure are much of the South suburban population. Even broad, black-eyed bucks with wilting antlers had to prove their danger by making a move. Even when they did, my father frightened them enough to go. When he got out of the car, there was nothing to chase away. Its tail wetted like a plume by the snow. The fox scrawled a cardinal footnote beneath the fear I had before. So that's all I have. I appreciate you guys for listening, and I look forward to hearing the rest of the contributors.
Thank you so much, Naila. I love that line, strange people and deer. That sounds like my neighborhood for sure. And our next reader is Marion Brown, and Marion's poem was in our March issue.
Thank you, Tricia and Katherine, for taking Not That Gretel. And also thank you to Mairead, my granddaughter, who in the first year of the pandemic, almost every night wanted to hear a fairy tale. Not That Gretel, excuse me, I'll start again. Not that Gretel, the one with a celebrity brother. This, the servant of a surly master who sees her only when she chips a plate or fails to sweep kindling, lives by her wits. Clever Gretel savors her own cooking. She roasts, but never gets enough. Her master, expecting a guest, takes his carving knife to the garden whetstone. Gretel crisps 2 geese to a turn. Do you know hunger and the smell of hot fat? Clever Gretel licks the drippings off her forefinger, can't resist tasting 1 wing. Soon the lopsided bird must give up the other. You see where devouring ends. When the guest knocks, Gretel warns, don't you hear the sharpening stone? Master is preparing to cut off your ears. Then she calls out, Master, your fine friend has stolen both geese. There he goes. Her words slice the shiny buttons off the master's snug vest. Knife in hand, he runs after his friend, shouting, at least let me have 1. Gretel wipes grease from her chin and buries the bones. I'll read 2 more short poems. The next one was published in Guest House. Wanted. Oh, and I should say this was based on a poster that was stapled to a telephone pole outside our house. Wanted. William Blake is lost, the sodden poster claims, $1,000 reward. Frantic letters weep, coloring 1 cat red. Who tore off every feather from a warbler so tiny, so many syllables I could not speak? William Blake devours fresh kill. He does not apologize for spying, for pouncing, or dying. Fierce and self-employed, whom will he sacrifice next? Worth almost any purse to someone, his remorseless meow. Thank you all for listening. I will finish with a poem that was in the Night Heron Barks. On Atlantic. Not a picture, but a picture window at the far end of a long living room, plush armchairs, not chairs, but nests for a clutch of eggs. Not eggs, but ice cream my mother let me eat for breakfast. Not breakfast, but bedtime, when I muffled the reading lamp under my pillow. Not the pillow, but smoke from the brown bruise of scorched ticking. Not scorched, but faded. My silent picture living in the deep green room where mother sits at night to read the Times. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marion. I always admire poets who can get a little humor in their poems. It's really hard for me. It's a talent I'm still working on. And our next reader is Carol Barrett, and Carol's poem was in our March issue.
Thank you. First, I have to apologize to my sister poets and to our guests. I'm having a technological issue, so you won't be able to see me, only to hear me. But it's been delightful to hear the poems that we've heard this evening, and I hope you're all having a great evening. I'm going to read Esther Consorts with Haggai, and I'd like to give you a little background. This poem was inspired by the book of Esther in the Hebrew Bible. In Christian circles, it's known as the Old Testament, and it's the only book of the Bible in which God does not appear. God is not mentioned. And some scholars think that's the reason why the book of Esther shows up so infrequently as a source for sermons in the Christian tradition. However, in the Jewish tradition, the book of Esther is extraordinarily important and is actually the basis of a major holiday called Purim. Now, in the days that are described in this story, eunuchs were used to prepare women of the harem to please the king. So this is a poem in which Esther is considering the lessons and training she has had from Haggai. And in the story, we find out that all of a sudden he changes his mind about what he advises her. So if you're so inclined, you might think about what training you had for lovemaking, if any, and think about Esther's experience in that light. Esther consorts with Haggai. Such wisdom. You taught my hips to shimmy, my ankles jostle in exotic shells, my breasts in rivulets of ribbons. I unwind sheer scarves to play in perfumed rhythms across my face. I've learned to bind my hair with pearls, my arms with silver bands, ears ring with ruby chains, belly lace with amethyst. You've shown me how to pull the sapphire silk from back to thigh, thread purple satin soft between my legs and snap it in the air. And now you say, forget such things? My beauty is sufficient? You see in me a richness born of some strange history, a meeting of the heavens that adornment merely mars. You say, go to him, proud king of Persia, empty the virgin's tapestry upon his bed and nothing in it? We'll have a joke at least. And then you say, remember who I am, my mother's lineage, natural star. I will remember the smell of rain on sand. I bend like the rushes in the shallows of brooks. My hair folds across my back like fronds across a cloud. All those things I knew as a child return. The washing of feet, pomegranates succulent and bright, the offering of grapes in sunlight, leaves softened in a moon of oil of olive, the perfect eggs of pheasants delighting even a bower of grass, the flutter of yellow birds winding through evening cattails like some embroidery all their own. When he takes me to him, it will be the way I lift my face to desert rain, to catch the drops upon my tongue, palms open to the splash, the wonder of God, free for the taking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. And it looks like our last reader is here. Are you here, Anjali?
I am. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad you were able to make it. Let's see, can we hear you?
Can you hear me okay?
You're a little quiet, I think. Is it just me?
No.
Oh,
A little bit better now that I'm
yes, that's much
That's
better.
good.
okay.
That's good.
So I won't be able to hear you guys too well, but hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. And again, much appreciated. I was glad to be able to hear a couple of the last awesome poets, and obviously I'll rewatch it later with enough time to listen to all the wonderful pieces that you guys have shared today. So awesome. All right, so I guess I'll get started with mine. And mine is called The Sweet Song of Cassava Hips, published by the awesome people at West Trestle. So glad to be the last final celebratory piece here. When your cassava hips want to dance to your drum beaten sweet song, let them shake, let them sway, and fight those who are trying to steal your sweetness, spreading you on toast like mango jam and spitting you out, ignorant of your flavors. When your cassava hips want to dance to your loud drum beaten sweet song, let them salsa and hip hop, because yours is a radiance and sweetness, a swagger that will not be muffled, never again stolen, because you are the sweet song, because you are more than cassava hips. You are deep oceans and freed fists. You are the broken chains of ancestors and the sweet song of the Anambra bird, its pigeon pea dotted wings flying across a vast, free West African sky. When your cassava hips want to dance, that eternal drum-beaten sweet song, dance because you are the child of queens and kings, warriors, fishermen, and farmers. You are the soiling sand of primordial dust. You are the secret, eternal cassava dancer. So when your cassava hips want to dance to the forbidden rhythm, let them rap and rumba. Let them walk past those jealous of your drum-beaten sweet song. Those trying to silence that sweet syncopation of your cassava hips. Esas caderas always swaying and always rule-breaking into new tomorrows and dreams paved by your drum-beaten sweet song. So that's for all our ladies to shake our things. Thank you so much again, guys.
Oh, thank you so much, Anjali. What a wonderful way to wrap up our reading. That was really fantastic. I just am so pleased that we've heard so many beautiful and powerful poems this evening. So that was Anyély Gomez-Dickerson, and her poem is in the September issue of West Trestle Review, so you can find it there. And before we leave, I think that Kathy is going to try to get a photo of us all. So if you have a video and you want to be in the photo, go ahead and start your video. And then Kathy's going to count down for us.
Okay.
And mine just crashed.
Oh no. I'm going to stop the recording first. So
Oh, okay.
and then we'll get ready for the photo.